What's good, YouTube, and welcome to the house. No, I'm not missing in action or anything crazy. Thanks for those checking in and caring about how I'm doing for a couple days of no uploads. I really do appreciate the love, but I was down in the bulk mines, and if you've been with the channel for a while, you know I have a ton of Yu-Gi-Oh! Bulk from back in the day, hundreds of thousands of commons that I've been needing to get to and just make space in my house eventually, and tons of Mares, Rams, crazy good commons. But when I'm looking through it, it's like, yo, I've got to get through, and it takes up several days. So when you have anything going on in your life, be it social, work, etc., it does feel like bulk ends up being a terrible use of your time. Insane profit margins, small actual amount of profit, and then the grind that you would have to do to sell all those individual cards. I've personally removed myself from the market so I don't have that direct hand dipped in to where I have an incentive not to bring you guys information first. And speaking of my vendor days, this is a funny one because it's one of the last cards that I actually bought out, and I've told you guys that several times, where I went to Troll and Toad and I got all the like last $5 copies while it was spiking to 12 before. This commonly goes to 12 to 20 all the way back down to 5. It just doesn't make sense for such an old card. And with Virtual World, I even suggested it back a while ago, it got some hype for its level and its ability to bring out level 3 psychic monsters, and now we see some niche play with it, and it goes from you know, that low price to 30, 32, 35, and you can see the market price around 16 from actual sales going up the ladder of people who had them listed. I'm personally not going to sell mine, even though it's one of the last cards I bought before I quit vending, but I've always liked this card as an aspect, and if you've listened to me on this card, you've made yourself a nice little stack, and hopefully you use that TCG player link in the description down below, costing you nothing extra to support the channel directly for the cards you'd already be buying. I could see this seriously actually getting a sales rate around 25, depending as it falls back out. People read this card and they lose their mind. Last time I think it was in Top Cut Play, I could be mistaken, was the Hoban kind of Monarch-esque era where he was trying crazy extra deck Monarch stuff. Cyber Emergency. Secret rares are up through the roof. Do recall that this was short printed heavily in Battles of Legend, which is how it got crazy prices in the past. And then you have the ultra rares kind of at a decent price as well, despite a super rare recent reprint that is worth almost nothing for what it is, like near $1. But people want this in playsets. Genesis Impact is thirsty for any value it can get, and why this wasn't a collector rare, I don't know. Why they didn't port Cyber Dragon as a collector rare, I don't know, but they do have Cyber Emergency over in Genesis Impact, and you can still get it very cheap for it as an option. People do play this in Drytron, and of course Cyber Dragons, if you're searching light machines pretty much at all that, you know, require specific summoning conditions and all sorts of stuff, and that cannot be normal summoned or set, well, you're going to be playing Cyber Emergency. So, as the game progresses and they continue to create new cards, this was bound to get better. Drytron happens to work for it, and luckily we do have a recent reprint instead of seeing both of these go through the roof and towards the moon. Skullmeister secret rares have been bought out, but so have the super rares. I suggested this many a time while it was down even as low as almost bulk pricing, 10 to 25 cents. It now sees a huge buyout, and then the common from the structure deck is also going out. Let's see what the actual listing prices are on the super rare. The secret rares from Star Strike Blast, no surprise there. 350s, and I could see these actually selling around 325s, 3s, and actually going out, but you can see people do have very high quantities of these, which will press the competition on this lower. Tons of people probably are deep into stacks of these, but this is a very alluring price for them to be selling at. We are looking at a format where Ghost Bell is very active. Now people are looking at other options to double down, like Skullmeister or DD Crow, and this has just been bought out so many times it's not shocking. It was already up towards 36, so we do see very, very high price versions of these either get pulled from the market or making sales. Vanity's Ruler Ultimate Rare has pretty much gone, which is crazy, but we do have a lucky reprint of this from, I believe, is it Dude or Dupo? One of the sets that just gave us a lot of them. So Vanity's Ruler, let's go ahead and check in on that. But the ulti's bought out through the roof, and it's dual overload, actually. I knew it was one of them dual sets. The ultra rare is just expressly cheap and has tons of listings, so you can get a holo foil version for yourself at a very, very cheap cost. And the original rares I think we looked up aren't that crazy. The champion pack rare, is it going anywhere? No, that's kind of crazy for such an old card. So you could, even pro play games, you can search sellers and stack your cart and get champion pack versions, which I think could be $10 down the road, even in the future, since it's expressing itself into a metagame and becoming a part of history, and it's an old card. Champion pack rare and first Ed Cyber Dark Impact may not be the worst things to have either. $1, yeah. So while you could get yourself an ultra rare for even cheaper, maybe a little bit more for the rare would actually be better for long-term keeps, especially for champion packs. This is the last one too, champion pack 8. Those odd numbers tend to have rolling buyouts and people look through them, so I might go with that champion pack version, especially with lower quantities. Knight Assailant. Okay, so this was presented to me, and I said, absolutely not, you're ridiculous the first time. So to whoever that was, I'm sorry. I took a second look through it, and I remembered, oh yeah, GOAT format stuff, even if it's niche, it's getting buyout after buyout after buyout. Somebody suggested to me that the Speed Duel Knight Assailant would be an excellent penny stonk, and I kind of shrugged and laughed it off. But after big braining it, after thinking it, and seeing, wow, the DT's bought out, wow, of course the super's ridiculous proportions within every single common, even battle pack common, is up through the roof. And then you get a new printing that's in a $30 MSRP, $16.50 to vendor box, and the vendors are only opening it to try to get secret rares to sell and then sell the god cards on like Amazon or whatever. They have pretty good quantities of this at around 50 cents, where every other common is like $3. And you can see other vendors quickly upping and sharpening up that price. So these 50-cent copies, core TCG, other top rated sellers, they're not the worst thing to get and hold on to, considering while it's new on market, a lot of people are still listing triple that price, looking over here and saying, well, that's still half price the other copies. So 50-cent copies of this, you might want to eat those up and just get as many as you can over time, and then kind of hold on. Anything that is on the FNL list also always does have upward potential, but they also have errata potential, don't they? Oh, the shock value that was presented on stream. DR4 is getting buyouts everywhere. Oh my gosh, John, have you seen 625 on, oh, let me be a, face tuber. Okay, look. I'm not a shock reaction value guy, but when it comes to these, it's not the most surprising yet, and it is at the same time. These new prices lead people to go, wow, this is crazy. Should I list mine now? And you see all the people listing and holding the line together, don't you? So they've had their copies, they've waited for a buyout, they're going to try to hold together and hope to get sales eventually. But the thing is, more than ever, people who have nothing to do with the game, they've been messaging my channel as well. Hey, I'm from Magic the Gathering, or I'm from over here, and I actually have been looking at Yu-Gi-Oh! Now. I think it's undervalued. Not to give a whole vintage value spiel, but people really are coming from the outside looking in, and they get a list of sets like, oh yeah, Retro Pack's good, the DR4 is good, the LOB first, MRD first, and they just blindly toss their money in as if it's some kind of stock. And so we see DR4 getting heavily focused and having a rolling buyout on tons of different cards here. Oh, Exarion up 350, 500, crazy prices. It's not really that insane. It's just people from the outside coming in, tossing their cash, and this is one of the best times perhaps to list your cards and hope to actually make a quicker sale than you could with these legacy cards, because while they could get buyout after buyout, a lot of people are getting them to just try to grade them, or they're hoping their investment will hold up, so they're playing vendor hot potato. Well, I do think there might be even further crazy proportions. If you think your raw card is like a PSA 9 or 10, you should probably be sending it in instead of just listing it. But a lot of people are listing 7s, 8s, and just trying to pass the buck, perhaps. Not saying that's exactly what those listed vendors are doing, but it's what a lot of people are doing. Destiny Hero Doomlord Rare is also interesting to note, because out of all my time, having gone through over 5 million commons within my vending career, I've only come across 2 rare Doomlords ever. I still have one of them, and it's at 200. This is actually a piece of history, having a hero name being a crush card target you could search with Rhoda that had a good effect. This is actually a very cool version of Doomlord, and I've always liked this guy. He used to be 30 forever as a rare, and he's actually getting bought out. And also Drillroid is bought out due to my stream continuously offering me coin flips, or not taking the contract, doing a coin flip by themselves and going ahead and buying it out. Phoenix Wing Wind Blast is up in price, and somebody asked me an interesting question. Do you think a Champion Pack 6 or a good old Ultimate Rare is up in price? This is nostalgia bait for any old player who really loved the power this card offered in certain old metagames, and I said that I think the first edition ulti is the highest, then the CP, then the unlimited ulti, and the prices actually kind of line up. You see a near mint here at $85 from a not top rated seller, and then you'll see the ultimate unlimited Wind Blast will line up, under that price at around $50, and then the first editions will be above that price. So we do see an old favorite getting kind of a look as a lot of old cards are doing, and this one I do like a lot because it would go back and forth, like Regeki Break in Dark Arm format because you don't want to give him back the Dark Arm, or you play Wind Blast here because you can stack with Ryza as well. So I'm going Ryza, Wind Blast, Ryza, and just locking my opponent. Really interesting places in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. The Speed Duel box, let's actually wrap back around to this. I think the secret rares are some actually really good cards to get because vendors are paying $16.50 on this, and you can actually see it's one of the first things that hasn't just bottomed out under MSRP, and while I'm not the biggest fan of the product, I am a very big fan of stuff like the secret rare Nobleman of Crossout. When's the last time you saw another Secret Jinzo printing, and what are the comparables at? And Secret Breaker as well. I think a lot of these are very good long-term holds for their specific rarities, even with the Speed Duel stamp, and some are their highest rarity, quote-unquote, for GOAT format, perhaps, heading forward. So definitely look through here. I would be looking at the holos that you only get 5 different ones. I've actually quoted this wrong. You get 3 God Guards guaranteed, and then 5 of the RNG secret rares, and while you have comparables like Foolish Burial, look, it has another comparable and its secret rare that's only $2 higher than its current price, so maybe not the greatest grab. I'd be looking for that nostalgia bait. And speaking of nostalgia bait, the super rare has a buyout to ridiculous proportions, so you might want to be looking at the lost art of this sooner than later. 185 up towards 200 and then 300. This has gone just absolutely absurd. Unchained Abomination is up in price, as it's not just because Goater made it popular, but people have been playing Unchained Abomination with multiple decks. They're continuing that trend. It's an amazing link for that I really like, and I do think it has upward potential, but you see very low listings of this. Listings of the Ultra have actually been recovering. They were less, I believe, when I looked at it a couple of days ago, but the secret rare, the newest one from the Megatons, not the most readily available, and it has been going up in price pretty quickly. So if you're interested in this card, in this rarity, I may actually consider getting it sooner than later because it could continue to go up as people do like this heavily over the ultra rare. Nightmare Cerberus is down in quantities on both copies as the other Nightmares got reprinted, and now it's one of the hardest good Nightmares to get. Makes a little bit of sense. People do love their co-links, not that it's being played in mass right now. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the potential of Phantom Rage. A lot of people feeling it's undervalued. I agree in certain aspects. Zeus is starting to go up a little bit. We saw it fall to 48. It's only up to 52, but it is headed upwards a bit. I think the Starlight Rare is heavily undervalued, and I think if we had IRL events right now, this would be a $70, $80 card, if not more. And I think the Starlight Rare, even though it's for less decks, with how many decks that are playing it right now, I think the Starlight Rare would be 500, but we don't know when IRL events will continue. We don't know how the trends will continue to go as the Starlight market has been bottoming out. I think there's tons of underestimated value. People will be grabbing 3 alphas here and there. Torn Scales is played outside of just the Phantom Knights deck, and of course there's the Phantom Knight engine, and Tri-Brigade continues to get new support. So I do suggest heavily kind of looking through Phantom Rage. I think it's actually just a mass of supply from those newer vendors who went freaking deep into the set, who are ordering case by case by case by case, getting 40 cases for themselves instead of that 1 or 2 to just gamble for a Starlight. They're getting like 40 cases. They're going the heck in, and they thought core sets would be invincible, and then there's this oversupply versus the current demand because so many people are doing that right now versus the competition like Tier 0 and Yu-Gi-Oh! Daily. And finally, don't be the person buying Snake Rain right now. That's all I gotta say about this card. Read the stat description for what's coming up. I believe it's Ancient Guardians, and actually take a look rather than just blindly buying this card at like the $8 mark. Don't you be doing it. I know it could be tempting to try to get yourself one with a secret rare misprint name some vendor wouldn't notice, but that name's really shiny. I think they actually would notice. That being said, thanks for watching today's Market Watch. Please subscribe if you haven't already. What are you doing if you haven't hit that button? Like this video if you enjoy the conversation, and there's been a lot going on that I haven't even been able to get to in this video, but I'm trying to keep it in kind of a nice time bite crunch, so I'll see you another day.